From the post-millennial, Trump says auto tariffs will be 25% or higher to begin April 2nd. I'll probably tell you that on April 2nd, but it'll be in the neighborhood of 25%. This is huge.
Yeah, let's go.
Last week, Trump said that new tariffs on automobiles could take effect as early as April. His comments come ahead of reports from his cabinet members who are scheduled to present options on various import duties as part of his broader effort to restructure global trade. I'm a fan. They say that currently the European Union applies a 10% tariff on vehicle imports, 4 times the 2.5% rate the U.S. charges. However, the U.S. maintains a 25% tariff on pickup trucks. So this is big. I'm in favor of it.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
I mean, if the auto tariffs at 25%. I mean, if we can inspire American companies to actually build cars in America, I think that's a universal good. I don't know. Like I've always ascribed to libertarian kind of ideas around economics and stuff like that. But I was totally wrong about when Donald Trump in his first term, he was talking about a trade war with China, and everyone's like, oh, blah, 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 trade war, trade's so terrible. And I was like, this is a bad idea. And I was totally wrong. China essentially folded. And if that's the goal, if this is about bargaining, let the man cook, because I don't know nearly as much as he does. But I do think if we can bring jobs back to the United States or create jobs in the U.S., particularly in the semiconductor area, so that way we have at least enough production capacity of chips to take care of the government and the military. Because
how about we just ban cars? Nobody can have a car.
What?
Yeah, ban them all. And then Trump could force everyone to buy electric vehicles by 2030.
Didn't we already do that? And he said, no way, we're not doing that.
California's doing that.
Yeah. Are they doing it anyway?
They're banning gas vehicles.
They're doing it anyway?
Which is insane.
New York tried to do that as well. I don't know if it went
It's not going to, there's something coming for Gavin.
Listen. Let me just say, the plan of Democrats and the deep state is that you will live in the pod and you will eat the bugs.
And you will not be able to go anywhere because once you have an electric car, they can just shut off your power and you're stranded.
And you can't work either.
Well, all cars.
There's
all cars made after, I want to say it was 2021 or 22. They have the automatic shut-off switch now.
Yep.
The Congress passed that.
Oh, I mean,
not only that.
In gas cars?
Yeah.
Cars after every car. What was it after?
What do you mean
21
automatic
or 22 or something?
Like you could be driving your car and
the police can
deactivate
deactivate it.
Be like, "Ba-doop," and you're like, what the hell? Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
So just buy old cars. That's
everything pre 2020.
You want like a '60s Mustang or something that's mechanical.
Who doesn't want a '60s Mustang?
No,
Come
favorite
on.
car.
That's a dream
Get
car.
a 1990s Ford F1 or 250 or something like that, because they're not
converted
super
to diesel.
old.
And you want to be able to drive stick shift?
Yes.
I don't have a stick shift.
Automatic transmission busts, you're done.
Yeah, I got.
But when the solar flare comes, everybody in those mechanical cars is going to be like, what's the problem?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, those are the 1960s Mustang. That's like
69, 67, 69,
that's
drop
the
top
good
black.
stuff.
I'm just gonna say this.
Nice old Cadillac.
I'm not going to investigate anymore what Trump is doing as it relates to the economy, because everything the Democrats, all their plans relate to living in the pot and eating the bugs.
Right.
So I'm going to go ahead and assume that whatever Trump is doing is the opposite of that and just roll with it.
That's pretty fair
That's sort of what I've been thinking too, especially when it comes to bringing jobs back to the United States and implementing tariffs. I mean, when you look at when he starts talking about it, he was talking about it today from his press conference at the Winter White House, and he was talking about how
Winter White House,
Mar-a-Lago.
Mar-a-Lago.
I was like, where's she talking? Oh yeah, that's right. That's good.
But yeah, he was talking about how all of these other countries charge us these huge tariffs, and we don't charge them equivalent tariffs, and it's because we're over here being like, well, we're so powerful, we better be magnanimous. It's like, no, that magnanimity is just screwing Americans. There's no
magnanimity.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's a word.
I know, it's just funny.
I think it was actually connected more to the Coward Piven tactic, which was started after the '64, Civil Rights Act was passed in order to break our economy. It actually tells me with these tariffs, with all the fraud they're finding in Doge, it tells me how rich our country really is. Even when that's happening, someone like Tim can still create a business that's successful. Imagine the tariffs come in equally at best, and we can squeeze out this fraud. How much more could America?
There was this crazy thing somebody was saying on Twitter. I think it was DC Drano account was saying, like, with all this money that Doge finds and cuts, they should give little remittance.
The Doge dividend.
Doge dividend. Yeah. And Elon Musk was like, let's talk to let's bring it to the president.
Hold on.
Like in Alaska, what they do with the oil.
I think so far the Doge dividend is going to be like $3.
You know what? I'll take that $3.
No, I'll wait. I'll wait 2 years. I'll wait 2 years
Right,
till they
well-
get through the IRS. They get through
Right.
like all these
Pentagon?
different agencies.
Hey, no, by the end of the year, it could
yeah.
be $80 to $100.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
I know that's hot. I
Yeah.
mean, that's gonna put your family out
consistently.
for dinner for one day. You know what I mean?
Not in LA. That's you put yourself out for dinner.
Yeah.
At In-N-Out, right?
In or out.
Said
On
In-N-Out.
average.
Yeah.
But think about this. Imagine if they save. What are they gonna have to? They're gonna have to muster up $1 trillion to get everybody $100, or not even $100.
You know what? That's all
That's
right.
still probably gonna
That's
be.
That's so good.
You know what?
But then also with the tariffs, you're adding that on top of that too. So you got the tariffs, you got all the fraud, as much as the fraud as possible. And if they start to open up, I mean, I think there's something coming with the IRS and taxes on people. So when you see that coming, places like Florida's they're going to take away, a state tax, and then the government wants to ultimately reduce your tax. I think Trump wants to just get rid of it altogether.
I would love to see it, but this is all stuff that you Congress for.
I was way off. It's actually $33 billion saved to give each American $100.
Yeah,
so if
we
they
hit the
could,
trillions.
I'm right. If they can muster up $300 billion in savings, every American gets $1,000.
Let's
That's
rock.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And you know what?
That
It's
real?
not
That's
just
crazy.
that. It's
Yeah.
not just the $1,000, and you have jobs, and
Yeah.
your schools maybe don't
yeah.
suck anymore and indoctrinate your kids.
Well, I
you
mean,
know, and you get a nice car.
But
Like,
seeing
and
them-
you get a car.
Seeing them squeeze us as they have, pretty
Isn't
much
it
since the
maddening?
early 1900s when they decided to enact taxes and move away from the tariff system. Look at these cities. And I grew up in Chicago, so in Evanston actually. I'm a North Sider, so
Oh, yeah.
I know you're a South Sider, but I'm a Sox fan. You look what's going on with these cities, and it's like they're so broken down. And there's Skid Row. I used to do feeding, give food giveaways down over in Skid Row. How does it look like? My family's from Liberia. How does it look like Liberia and Skid Row, where people are living on the street like that, and we have this much money in the country, and the person who runs the homeless agency is making somewhere around $500,000 to $600,000 a year?
And most of their money
What?
goes to administrative costs. If
Exactly.
you look at all of
Just
these
like the
charities
schools.
and the NGOs, it all goes to administrative costs. Well, that's why colleges got so expensive too.
Yes.
They just kept building more and more administrative buildings and having more and more people come in who sit around for 3 hours and then go to lunch and then try and figure out when they're going home. And
And that with colleges was backed by the government, so they could raise it all the time without worrying about actually having to hit any real numbers. So they were trapping people in indentured servitude with all these college loans that were go ahead and backed by your government, which then would just squeeze us down even more and more. The coward pivot strategy to destroy the American economy, and that's what we've been fighting against. Is this new communist action that the Civil Rights Act had ushered in?
Yeah.
We're now hopefully on the other side of starting to break that up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hopeful that we are on the other side, that there's because, I mean, so I've been complaining about communism for 15, it feels like for 15 years, right? And for the most part, for a good portion of it, people were like, oh, that's not a problem anymore. That isn't a thing anymore. And it's like, it's 2011. And I'm like, no, if you go online and you look at the people that are the things that people on, in the weird spaces on the internet talking about, they're full of commies. Now, granted, there were significantly fewer of them back then, but communism is an ideology that's really attractive to people that don't know anything about history.
I would say then that takes us to Hollywood. And
I mean, partially, yeah.
In the late 60s or in the late 50s, communism actually interjected itself into the pro-black movement, right? So they started becoming more alive in there. So that's how you see the black community moves the way it does, because they were the first group of Americans to actually embrace communism without knowing it was communism, because they were like, we're being, discriminated against.
Yeah.
Now the Democratic Party after 65 adopted communism. They've been communists this entire time.
Yes.
They haven't changed. And then who's the mouthpiece for the Democratic Party? Hollywood. Hollywood, how many World War II movies have we seen from Hollywood talking about fascism and Nazis?
Yeah.
Then let's ask you, how many movies have we seen them talk about communism and Mao?
Not a lot. No.
Exactly. That's the point. So people have no idea what communism is because the mouthpiece has been telling you it's the guy with the little mustache
And
that's bad.
falls into the strategy of people like Saul Alinsky and even further back, the communists in the 50s and stuff. They would say, look, you should go and accuse your opponents of being fascist, accuse them of being Nazis, accuse them of this because people are so revolted by those ideas and by that kind of ideology.
Especially when they're showing us over and over, like, man, look what they did to Jews and look what they did to Europe, right? And you have, when you said 2011, or wasn't many of them? No, my argument is the Democratic Party were. And so was Hollywood.
They weren't so openly, and you didn't
Before
see flying the communist
they weren't
flag.
flying it then. But
Before we jump to the next segment, I want to take the opportunity once again, as we're talking about living in the pot and eating the bugs. I implore people to look into their state's worker classification laws. They've been sweeping the country, and they've been completely overlooked by the right. They are effectively making it illegal to work. That's it. If this one is missed. Moving forward, California, West Virginia notoriously have some of the worst laws. I've been reading into it. We are going to be 20 years from now, your child will be looking for work, and they'll say, my options are Amazon and Walmart. And you'll say, well, why don't you just see if the local grocery store has any gigs? Maybe you can go to a local bar and do some bar back and stuff for today. Oh, no, it's illegal. What do you mean? When I was living in Chicago, I went to a bunch of bars looking for work, and one guy said, if you help out tonight, I'll give you $40.
Right.
Illegal. We are moving towards, so there was something that happened in West Virginia. A statement was made by activists in West Virginia pertaining to gun rights, where the Biden administration wanted to make it so that all gun transfers had to happen at an FFL, a licensed gun shop. And in West Virginia, which has mountainous, very rural areas, there were people, the advocacy groups were basically saying, there's a guy who lives 2.5 hours from the nearest city, and his brother is 10 minutes down the road. He needs to give his brother a gun to protect his house from wild animals, which there are many, or to hunt. So they both have to drive 2.5 hours into a city so that he can hand the weapon. That's ridiculous. Now, we're heading in that direction with overregulation, where if the Democrats had their way, that's what you would have to do. These gig economy or Uber laws that are passing all over the country, 34 states have some variation of them. Tennessee's got it. West Virginia's got it. Virginia's a little bit better. Illinois, Florida, they've all got it. Right. These legislatures in these states have been passing this, and no one on the right has said anything about it.
That's not true that no one on the right has said anything about
it. Well, when California passed, I think it was called SB 5, it was a huge scandal.
Yeah.
And now over the past seven years, it's swept across the country, hitting almost every single state without so much as a news cycle.
Well, and the federal government, right?
That's right.
The PRO Act. This is what Biden was pushing. And every time he brought it up, I would write about it. And I would say, guys, this is bad. It means you can't work.
It's communism.
This means you can't work for yourself.
Your children.
You need to be able to work for yourself.
Yep.
Like, that's just the basis of everything. It's
you
like,
if
I can't get a job, if I can't get someone else to give me permission to earn a living, like I don't need permission to earn a living. That should be what every American says is, I don't need a permission to earn a living. You have all these people on the left saying having it all is a right, but it's like, no, nothing. No, you have the right to earn your own food. You don't need someone to give you permission to do that.
You can stop at you don't need permission.
You don't need permission.
Right. That's it.
Come
that's
on,
the
people.
whole thing.
You don't need permission.
You don't need permission. If you, in the United States, we are ostensibly a free country. That means that you don't need permission to go do things. There's a meme on the internet. You can just go do things.
Not anymore.
I mean,
you should just be able to.
But Tim, this is good. I'm happy you're talking about this, because you're talking about 20 years in your kid. Like at this point now, and I got an 11-month-old, you're about to have one. That's our kids.
That's right.
Like if we don't do something now,
our kids are going to grow up in a society where the presumption of access to resources come from government-approved institutions only.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but that's what they've been trying to do this whole time. They've been trying to do this.
Communist.
They want you to have. They want your main partner in life to be the government. I've brought this up before, but do you guys remember the ad for Obamacare during the Biden administration? And it was this woman, Julia, and it was like she was this little cartoon, and it showed her like going through life. She'd go through school, government school. She'd go get a job, be a government job. She'd have a baby, the government would provide it. She got pregnant. You never even saw a man in this cartoon.
There was an outrage among the right for a reason. Mm-hmm. The idea that you should expect to depend on the government from birth to death is offensive to a percentage of the population, and it should be a larger percentage than it is. But we're talking about communism. This is teaching kids to be communists
without
any of the theory.
Yep.
You don't have to
Yes.
teach people Marx to teach them to be communists.
Let me stress what this law in West Virginia does, and it's not just West Virginia, but it's what's happening to us. If you want to work, either your employer has to ask the government for permission, or you have to ask the government for permission. What they've explained to us is a corporation goes to the government and requests the right to hire people and has to pay the government money to do it, payroll taxes and and service tax and things like this. If you are an individual and you want to do a series of jobs or production for various companies, you have to first go to the government, file for a West Virginia business, file for a license, open a bank account for that business, and operate that entity. You need to get permission from the government to work.
That's absolutely
and that's
insane.
34 states are doing this. And at the federal level, the Department of Labor has enacted rules trying to make this federal.
Yeah, Joe Biden ran on it. He
Yeah.
was trying to get it through Congress. And
These people are
it's
evil.
It's insane when they did that one in California. I was working freelance. I lived in New York City, and New York was trying to do it too. And California and New York have legislators that work together to get laws passed in
Oh, yeah.
California
They like to
first,
do
and
it at
then
the tail end,
yeah, and then
work
they
their
get
way in.
them. Then they get them those same laws passed. They did it with trans sanctuary state and some other stuff. And so New York was doing it too. And I was looking at it, and I was like, I work for myself, writing for all of these different outlets. And that's how I was like, I had to start a new career. This is how I was paying my bills, feeding my kid, like paying my rent. And I was like, they're trying to make it illegal for me to work in a way that is consistent with being able to raise my son and all of this stuff.
And think about how that translates. So as a writer, you would write for, let's say you write for 3 different organizations.
It was like 10, but
Right.
sure.
And so what they're trying to say is, no, pick one. They have to hire you full time. Well, they won't. They're going to say,
no.
we won't do
They
that.
don't- they don't
so
have
you're
the
fired.
And they're
capacity
small.
all the
Like
time.
outlets are really
Yeah.
small. The Post Millennial, we have like 12 people on staff or something like that. We're just a little outlet.
So
we
you
make a
and your
big
garage
splash, but-
make birdhouses, and then you've got three nursing homes that like to buy a birdhouse once a month.
Each of them.
And yeah, each of them, because they break and the old people like it. And then one day the government comes to you and says, you either get hired as a full-time employee making birdhouses for one nursing home, or you can't work ever again.
Wow, they're trying to stifle. I mean, with the gig economy, it's really. I remember in the '90s, it was the fastest growth of millionaires because of the internet, and they're trying to cut that off at the pass with the gig economy. Right?
Let's just pause real quick. The gig economy emerges. Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, Seamless, Uber Eats, blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden, there's a bunch of apps that allow you to instantly connect to other people for exchange of goods and services. Understand that California, West Virginia, Florida, Illinois, New York, all of these states that are doing this are basically saying, oh no, the people have figured out how to work for each other. Quick, make it illegal.
Right.
That's what they're doing. I believe if you want to work, if you want to be an independent contractor, this is the funny thing. I actually agree with Uber. Uber's argument was, we're a social media app that connects one user to another. We don't hire anybody.
Right.
In which case, you're not even an independent contractor. You are just literally someone using an app to connect to somebody else.
You're like a sole proprietor.
Yeah.
Uber should have no requirement to be an employer. They say, here's an app. If someone presses I need a ride, then someone who wants to give a ride can connect to them, and we're not employing anybody, and that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
That's what it was. That's what it was
the
supposed
setup.
to be in
That's
the
why
first
it was so
place.
cheap.
And DoorDash and other stuff.
It was so cheap back in the day.
Yeah.
But, this communist move, a warning I want to put out there to everyone. If you want to see the results of it, look at the black communities in cities. Because that's the ones that rely the most on the government. That's the ones that get more government jobs. You want to see the results of what communism looks like in America? The black community in every city, major city in this country is the result of that. No father, like you were saying, you didn't see a man in the picture because the government's daddy.
Yeah.
Right.
I talked to a friend of mine who's a Chicago police officer. She's like, you have no idea how many mothers, single moms, I get called so that they can come deal with their sons. That's supposed to be my job and your job and your job, not supposed to be the government.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.